Welcome to the Dukes of Horror Halloween special podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all the Halloween things you love. I'm H.H. Duke.
And I'm Screwloose.
And this week we're talking about nostalgic Halloween movies from our childhoods. But before we get into that, what's something spooky that you did this week, John? Something Halloween related?
Something spooky. I don't know, really. I've just been watching a lot of horror movies. Actually, maybe a few things. So I saw Halloween Kills last week. And since I have Peacock, I've watched that a couple times. Also, the Chucky TV show is going right now, and I've been kind of into that. But the big thing, I don't know, I got my October issue of Fangoria magazine. I subscribed to that about a month ago, and this is the first issue I've gotten. So, I guess really just like a lot of movies and other spooky content I've had, which is kind of like, adding to my Halloween vibes.
Very nice. So Fangoria, is that like specifically about film, or is it also about like just spooky stuff in general? Because I've heard of that, but I'm not really sure what it is.
No, it's a insider magazine about horror films and I guess the horror genre. I mean, like television shows too. I mean, it's not just a horror magazine, mostly horror movies and stuff of that nature. Behind the scenes kind of previews, letting you know what movies are coming out, and as a horror movie fan, what you should be watching, basically.
Very nice. I might have to borrow that from you.
For sure. I'm still working on it. It's actually you pay like, I think it's like $6.66 a month or something weird like that. And you only get 4 a year, even though you're paying that a month. But basically the magazines it's a good quality magazine and there's a lot in it. And it's not a flimsy magazine. So hopefully it's good for collecting and it'll, stay around for a while.
That sounds like it. Do you think, did they plan the $6.66 thing?
Probably. I mean, I have to look into that if that's the exact amount it was. For some reason, that's just what comes to mind. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess for me, this was actually more than a week ago, but last weekend, Giru and I went to Tennessee and we went to Gatlinburg. And I don't know if Ripley's, like if Gatlinburg is their home base, but they had so many Ripley's things there. They had like an aquarium, like the regular Ripley's museum. But they also had Ripley's Haunted Adventure, which is like a haunted house.
Cool.
And it was a pretty good one. They had all the regular stuff that you see going through a haunted house. They also had that, it's like a parachute that they inflate on you, and then you kind of have to like go through it.
Sure.
But it was really good. I would recommend it to anyone who's going down there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's probably a little late in the year for me to head out to Tennessee, but I am tempted now after hearing about that. So, I mean, I always loved Ripley's, believe it or not. I mean, I think, was it the one in the Wisconsin Dells? I think I've only been to the one in the Wisconsin Dells, but, Ripley's, believe it or not. And then I guess I'm curious was it like a pretty high quality? I mean, you've been to Universal Orlando, Halloween Horror Nights. How did it compare to like that?
There were only a couple actors in this one. At Universal, like they had, dozens of actors in every haunted house.
Sure.
This one was more like prop based, but all the props were really high quality. What was funny was at the beginning, like, they kind of put you in with other groups. I think they aim for like 6 to 8 people. And so Gear and I were in with other people. And at the beginning, the guy who let us in, the staff member, he's like, okay, I need everyone to touch the person in front of them and you cannot let them go. And everyone was kind of weird about it at first, but once they put you in there, it did get really dark really fast, and I could see getting lost in there, and then maybe you'd become one of the props,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to a haunted house, and maybe because they don't want people to get lost, because I've been to like, one of our haunted house in the Quad Cities, Factory of Fear. It's got a pretty dark maze in it. However, I'm guessing they're probably trying to shove a lot of people through, that they don't want people getting jammed up in there, getting lost all the time, because that would just be an issue. But yeah, I don't know, that's interesting. I've never had a haunted house say to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's cool is I think this one is open year round. So even if you can't get there around Halloween, I think you could go there at any time. like I would like to do for like a topic for another show would be like Halloween vacations, talk about Salem or New Orleans or Eureka, all those places.
Sure. I gotcha. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. I know Salem I've always wanted to go to. I mean, I've been to New Orleans, not during Halloween time. So I guess I'm curious. I mean, they have all the ghost tours and other haunted stuff. So, it would be a fun thing to do. Check out some voodoo shops.
Yeah, well, if you talk to any of the locals, they say the best time to go is around Halloween. It's like Mardi Gras, but not as much crowds, and all the toilets aren't overflowing.
Sure. Yeah, no, I gotcha. Gotcha. Did they have any shrunken heads in the Ripley Haunted House? Because I remember when we went to the Wisconsin Dells, the big thing was, I think Dad or somebody that said they had shrunken heads, and so you're kind of like we were little, so a little scared, a little intrigued as to how that would be. So yeah, shrunken heads.
Right. I'm sure they had some props in there, but I didn't see them. It was kind of like a monster high school theme.
Sure.
So they were called like I don't remember what the name of the high school was, but their mascot was the Reapers. Mm-hmm. So like at the end, they had like a giant animatronic Reaper.
Sure.
It was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like it. I'm intrigued.
All right, but should we get into the main meat of the podcast?
Let's do it.
All right, so today, as I said, we're talking about nostalgic Halloween movies. So I've just got kind of a list I've made here, and I thought we'd just go down and talk about it. And most of the ones I have on the list are ones that I'm nostalgic about. So you can tell me if you're nostalgic about them too, or if it's just a me thing. Sure. But we'll get into it here. I'm pretty sure you're nostalgic about this first one. So the first one on my list is...
Is it Hocus Pocus?
It is Hocus Pocus. How did you guess?
Hocus Pocus. Everyone says Hocus Pocus, which it is a perfectly... It's not underrated. It's a perfectly rated movie. So, I mean, it's going to be on like everyone's Halloween movie list, especially nostalgic, especially 90s kids like us, mm-hmm. Hocus Pocus is going to be on there. But yeah, continue.
I do wonder, like, if you show it to someone who's never seen it, like, will they be as into it? I think I've heard people who haven't watched it like in childhood, but watch it as adults. I think they like it, but they're not as like fanatic about it. That's the reaction I've noticed.
Yeah.
So have you watched it yet this year?
I haven't, but it's on my list. I feel like there's a lot of stuff I wanted to watch this year because I don't know. These lists came out from all the different streaming services about like, all their Halloween movie watch lists. And there's like, if you put all those together, it's like hundreds of movies. So you're probably not getting around to everything. But Hocus Pocus is one that I'm going to make sure that I get watched. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. I'm going to make sure to get through and watch it because, I mean, what I like about it and what's kind of nostalgic, again, you saw it when you were a kid. And you just kind of like the premise. And mostly, again, it's what I look for in a Halloween movie is that kind of Halloween vibe, like that Halloween town. And, this one takes place in Salem. The town of Salem seems like they like to do it upright, trick-or-treaters and parties and good decorations. And yeah, just as a kid, you like the story too. The three witches, the little black cat, Adam Binks.
Binks, yeah. Thackeray Binks.
I don't know why I said Adam, but
when you were a kid, did you know it was Thackeray or did you think it was Zachary?
No, I thought it was Zachary, and I don't know. I can't remember. Somebody like sent a meme around in the last few years saying it was Thackeray, but yeah, it's kind of harder to say now. Thackeray.
I think it's kind of fun to say Thackeray.
Yeah. And then the zombie, that Winifred Sanderson, she wakens up and then he's hunting on the whole movie, and then it turns out that he's, I guess, spoiler alert, that he doesn't like Winifred either. So mm-hmm. That's a good scene. Yeah. And I like it.
Yeah. Did you know that a lot of it was filmed like in Salem itself?
No, I mean, I kind of figured, however, it's not, a lot of movies don't actually film where they say they're being filmed, but I know I bought it because, I mean, it looked like a Eastern town mm-hmm. out there in Massachusetts. So, yeah.
I know at least two of the scenes were, so I believe the scene at the beginning when they're actually back in like old time Salem.
Sure.
And then also, gosh, I'm blanking on the lead girl's name, like the love interest name, but her house, that's a house in Salem.
Okay.
One more question before I move on. So who's your favorite witch of the three?
Honestly, they all kind of sit the same for me. I mean, oddly enough, they kind of did a good job giving each of those three, a different kind of character vibe that kind of made them feel like a good unit. You got kind of the Sarah's the kind of the ditzy pretty one. Winifred is the kind of evil main one. And then what's the name of the third one?
Oh gosh. Sister Sarah, I don't know. She's played by Kathy Najimy.
Yeah.
I should know this. Oh my gosh.
I guess now that I'm thinking about it, her and Sarah are kind of, they're both kind of, ditzy goofy. I guess she's more just like goofy,
yeah,
kind of funny.
Mary's her name.
Mary. There we go. I don't know which is your favorite.
I've had different favorites throughout the years. Like when I was little, like I really liked Sarah. I think like I wanted to grow up and be like her. But as an adult, I guess I'd have to go Winifred, though as you say, like they do kind of work better as a trio. They sort of play off each other.
Yep. Yeah, they do. I mean, Winifred, also, I mean, I have a hard time, any kids who watch that movie thinking Winifred would be their favorite, even though she does have her like funny bits. There are some moments that are like, the beginning when they're sucking the soul out of the little girl. Actually pretty terrifying, which, at one point Steven Spielberg was supposed to make this movie and he wanted to do it a lot more like Gremlins, like kind of a teenage horror film, like not like totally hard R, but it was going to be, I don't know, scarier than what it was. And that scene, and also, I don't know, there's a moment where like at the end where she gets knocked off her broom and her face is buried in the grass and all of a sudden she just like, and I'm just like, as a kid, I'm like, something about that kind of, I'm like, oh, that's a little scary. Yeah.
For
Are you excited for the Disney Plus sequel? I'm going to say that I'm actually kind of not. I think it's a movie that shouldn't be built upon. Like building upon it is probably going to weaken the original one for me, but I'll watch it and who knows, maybe I'll be surprised.
I kind of agree with you. Like I'm tentatively hopeful about it.
Yeah.
Like you said, once like such a good movie has a sequel and it's not as good, like it doesn't live up to the first one, it does kind of, like as you say, weaken the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping that especially the three main actresses, they're all coming back. So I'm hoping they wouldn't come back for something that wasn't up to par, So I'm hopeful for it. Like I'll watch it. And if it's not good, I'll just, I don't know, drink really heavily afterwards and never watch it again.
I got pretty good about like striking stuff from my head canon. So I mean, if there's a bad sequel, I'm actually kind of pretty good about just like, doesn't exist to me.
Sure.
Yep. What's the next film?
The next one I've got is Halloween Town.
Halloween Town.
And all of its, subsequent sequels.
Yeah. I only remember, I haven't watched that movie in a long time. And again, I have Disney Plus. That one's on Disney Plus too, so maybe I should give it a watch. Part of me kind of wonders, though. I mean, I did like that a lot when I was a kid. And I remember the first one and I remember the sequel, but I'm curious if, because it was kind of a Disney Channel movie, if I'm just going to think it's kind of like low rent at this point, like if it will live up to it for me. But, I kind of like that idea. I remember really liking that movie as a kid because, they have these kids and you realize that their grandma's a witch and they get to travel to this like magical Halloween village. And you're kind of like, yeah, that's fun. And I remember that movie being, again, 90s kids, but everyone's favorite movie. Everyone wanted to watch that movie. I remember from my school.
It was one like where when you saw that it was on TV, like you just had to sit down and watch it. Like they played it all the time, but like it never got old, at least not for me, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you mean about sort of the low rent aspects of it. Or I guess originally the budget was supposed to be like 20 million or something like that, which is pretty high for like a Disney Channel movie. But like at the last minute, they knocked the budget down to like, I think it was 2 million, sure, which is really low, right, for a movie. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't really know what the budgets for movies are, but I guess like
it can be done. I mean, if it was originally meant to be a higher budget, that usually makes it difficult because usually they've been planning for that higher budget. So then when you cut it, it probably makes the movie harder. However, some movies do, start out knowing they're only going to have like $1 million or $2 million, and they're able to do the process better. But yeah.
Right, because they can plan better. But I mean, I think it does kind of show, like on the bus scene, especially, like, you have all these monsters who are going back and forth between the mortal world and Halloween Town. And like their masks, their heads look really great, but then their hands are just human hands.
Sure.
It's sort of like the Cats thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember this other part, like it was the part where they're at the dentist and they're pulling like the vampire's fang out. And then she like turns around to the camera and she's like, "Doctor, it doesn't hurt at all." And then like she's like grinning and you can just see it's like her tooth is still there, but it's got like shiny black makeup on it, basically.
Huh. I remember that. I mean, I remember that scene, but I don't know, for some reason when I was a kid, it worked for me. I guess maybe I didn't have a critical eye that I was looking for the makeup, but I'm guessing as an adult, I'd probably see it now. That's kind of interesting. Worked for me as a kid, maybe not as an adult. Yeah. I
think a lot of stuff works when you're a kid. I do remember watching it recently and like thinking it wasn't as good as I remember, but it's still good, as far as like a Disney Channel movie goes. And like Debbie Reynolds is in it. So that's, I mean, she's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the Disney movie, and maybe now I'll interject one of my own into it, but the Disney Channel movie that kind of I feel more nostalgic about was the Under Wraps.
Yes.
The one about the kid who, I guess just comes across a mummy. I'm trying to think how he got a hold of that mummy, but mummy comes to life. He's all into this horror stuff and trying to save the mummy before he like turns to dust or something, or if he's not able to get back into his like tomb, he will turn to dust. They actually did a remake of that here recently that I think is on the Disney Channel, and I'm like, it just looks so much goofier than the version we got as a kid. Like, I don't know, the version we got as a kid like seemed like it was actually executed pretty seriously. The trailers for this new one just looks very slapsticky, and I'm kind of like, maybe I should give it a watch, but part of me is like, I'm not gonna dig it. Too old to appreciate that movie, I think.
Wow. That shocks me. Like, are we at a point in our existence where we're making Disney movies, like Disney Channel movies now? Is it out already, or is it coming out?
I think it's out already. Yeah, because they were advertising it a few weeks ago, and I feel like they were saying it was going to be on this coming Friday. So, yeah, I'm guessing it's out, and I don't know. My thing is like, I think they just kind of more or less stole the idea of the original, but Disney Channel has a new style. Again, it just seems a lot more kind of like silly and slapsticky. Because I don't know. I feel like I'm probably not remembering the scene from the trailer exactly, but the mummy's kind of like, oh, and then a bus flies by and like grabs his like part of his wrap, it just like yanks him, and he goes flying through the air like all ridiculous like that. It's hard to explain, but yeah, just a little bit more over the top than I remember. But given I'm comparing it to the one from when I was a kid, so the one from, in my mind, of course, because I'm biased, the one from when I was a kid will be the better. So who knows? Maybe I need to debate a current Disney Channel viewer about which Under Wraps is better, but yeah.
That could be a future episode.
Yeah,
which Under Wraps is better?
Yep.
All right. So the next one I've got is the Halloween Tree. Do you remember this one, John?
I thought did you bring this one up on our opening episode? I mean, this is the one where the creepy dude in the mansion, who I can't tell if he's supposed to be a guy or some sort of like kind of monster thing, but he takes all the kids through Halloween throughout history.
Yep.
I think
Clavicle.
I mean, I remember them going to I think they're in Egypt for a little bit, and Clavicle comes, I don't know, all of a sudden he's like dressed like a mummy and he comes out of a tomb really creepy like. And I remember they visit like Notre Dame, and I think also they go to Mexico at one point for like Halloween there. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, we had like a VHS of it. I'm assuming our grandma probably bought it at like the Goodwill or something. But we watched that one like every year. And I remember we used to watch it on our projector when we still had that. And I don't know, I think it's one that like no one really remembers, but I love it so much. And it's based on a story by Ray Bradbury by the same name, The Halloween Tree. Yeah. It's just so good. I want to watch it again. I actually think I bought it on Amazon last year. So maybe we should have a Halloween movie marathon and watch that and some of these other movies we got.
Yeah, it might be fun. I mean, that one was a strange one because I guess I couldn't remember how known or popular that was at the time. For some reason, even as a kid, I'm like, I feel like this is a movie that didn't really play in theaters and kind of like a direct-to-video release, and somehow somebody just snagged it from the Goodwill or something. I guess I can't remember how we got our hands on it, but yes, part of me is like, I feel like nobody knows about this movie, but who knows, maybe a lot of people do know about it. So yeah.
So listeners, if you know about this movie, let us know.
Do it to it.
All right. So those are like the three ones for me that are like the most nostalgic. But I have a few other ones here. Under Wraps is one of them that like I kind of remember from childhood, and they still sort of ring Halloween to me. So the first one is one that I also mentioned in our first episode, Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman. This one played a lot on TV around the Halloween season when we were kids.
Oh yeah, yep. I love that one. I mean, I think Theodore, he's the green one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because Simon's the tall, smart one, and Alvin's Alvin. But yeah, so I don't know. Remember, Theodore gets turned into a werewolf, and it's a little scary, but probably not that scary since it was like Alvin and the Chipmunks was pretty kid-friendly. And I don't know, he gets bit by the werewolf. He's turned into a werewolf. He's acting kind of like a little bit of a jerk. And then, at the end, it all works out, kids. So, yeah.
It does, yeah. And I still get that song, like Baby Brother, Mr. Hyde, stuck in my head. Baby brother, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Yep.
I might have to refresh on that one. Yeah.
I don't know. Now I'm feeling like I need to watch all of these. It can't be that long. It's got to be like 40 minutes or something, like a TV movie.
Sure.
So the next one on my list was Under Wraps. We've already talked about that. And then, I'm wondering if you remember this one. It lives in like the same Under Wraps part of my brain, the part of my brain where Under Wraps lives. Don't Look Under the Bed. Yep.
I mean, the one about the boogeyman.
Yep.
Or basically you have an imaginary friend, and if you forget about them, they turn into a boogeyman. Yeah. That's kind of that's kind of a scary dynamic if you're an imaginary friend, because every imaginary friend gets forgotten at some point, right? So yeah, might make it just kind of like why is that? What is the lore behind that? Children. It just kind of makes maybe the child's mind a little bit dark if, I don't know. Get what I'm saying? Yeah, like what's the psychological like reasoning behind that? Like, does it have some almost Freudian thing? I don't know, but I know what you mean. Yeah, for sure. All right. And then what about the Haunted Mansion, John? Haunted Mansion. No, not as much. I mean, I think I had that movie for a little bit, but I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite movie in the world, so now it was not a movie I'm like, oh, the Haunted Mansion. Yeah. Didn't have a big part in my childhood Halloween viewing, but yeah. Right, yeah. Did you? Because I thought we had that movie, and I don't remember you ever watching it. We did have it, and I remember liking it when I was a kid, and it's another one that I feel like if I watched it again, like the story and the effects just wouldn't hold up. Yeah. But like when I was a kid, I liked anything spooky, so I think I did like it. For sure. Have you ever ridden the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney? Is it Disneyland or Disney World? It's at the Magic Kingdom at Disney World. They at least did have one at Disneyland too. I think it's still there. Yeah. It's still there. Actually, I'm going to Google that after. I'm pretty sure it's still at Disneyland, but I guess I don't know for sure to gamble on it. I've ridden that ride. I mean, have you? I've never been. I've only been to Epcot. That's the only Disney themed park I've been to. It's actually really good, and Disney Plus has a series that goes through the making of all those parks, and they touch on the Haunted Mansion quite a bit. And for a Disney World ride, it's actually done pretty creepy and spooky, and like there's a lot of good. They do these practical effects with different ghosts using kind of like reflections and light, stuff like that, reflecting stuff on glass that makes it look like the ghosts are there, but really they're not. That's, I don't know. No, I love that ride. I do it again. I want to make it during like, I think it's Christmas time where they turn the Haunted Mansion into a Nightmare Before Christmas themed Haunted Mansion.
I had heard
that's
that,
always, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I have the DVD of Nightmare Before Christmas, and maybe I shouldn't have done this, but they have essentially a ride through. So they have the camera go through and basically do the, like, I don't know. Basically, yeah, you can watch the ride through of the ride from your TV, and it's kind of like you did it, even though you didn't. So yeah, you can see what's in the ride at the very least.
Yeah, I'd be conflicted about watching that. Like the first time you go through, like you do want to, be surprised by everything. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get there. Like the Haunted Mansion ride is probably like one or two rides that I'd actually go to Disneyland or Disney World for.
Sure.
We've always been like a Universal family, right?
Universal.
Yep. Maybe someday though.
Yeah. I think you got to plan on them both. Usually we just like, I don't know, it seemed like people didn't want to spend the time to also check out Disney World. But I mean, I would do a Universal vacation at this point an Orlando vacation where you check out mainly Disney World, because there's a lot of cool stuff there too. But I mean, I'm mostly Universal Orlando. It would be hard to go to Orlando without going to Universal. So yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't just go for just a Disney vacation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd have to see. I mean, maybe when you have kids or something, it'll be more justifiable, because I don't know, maybe the kids will be too young to go to Universal Orlando, at least initially, but maybe not. I mean, there's still kids stuff at Universal Orlando, so we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of adults who like to go, like just on their own, right? But I feel like you have to start that young, like when you're a kid, to get that nostalgia factor. Or I guess just be like a Disney fan.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right, I got one more.
Okay.
Little Vampire. Do you remember that movie?
I think I do. What's the name of? Does it star that like little blonde kid who had all the spiky hair?
It's like his last name is Lipnicki. Yeah.
Yep, that's the movie. But no, so I can't remember how they meet the vampire, but yeah, they meets the vampire. They drink the cow blood. That's how the family like stays alive. And I just remember the scene where the vampire hunter is trying to kill the family, and it's actually pretty grotesque, because I remember like the dad vampire shielding the family, and it was like his arm skin had like been burning away, and it looked like there was like bones, and I'm just like, I was like watching it, I'm like, gee whiz, and the kid ends up saving him, and that's how the family decides that he's a good one. Yeah, so
it is like some of these movies we've been talking about, like I just wonder if they'd be made today with the same like level of intensity. Like you were talking about the new Under Wraps, right? And how it's like more goofy. I do feel like even kids' movies were scarier when we were younger.
I think just the new generation, they look at what they thought was a little too intense about their childhood, and they're like, well, for my childhood, or for my children's childhood, we're gonna clean that up a little bit, even though I don't think it's so bad. Like I feel like most people our age would be like, yeah man, I was made tougher by the scary kids movies I saw, as then they turn around and like, not my kids though. Like the scene with the dad where it's like kind of like it seems like his arm bones are sticking out all of a sudden, or his like bones are exposed. The way the scene is shot, it doesn't seem like overly horrific. I just found it like kind of an interesting choice for the scene that they were doing. Even as a kid, I'm just like, why are you showing his bones, man? Why don't you just have like smoke coming off him? They're just like, I don't know, let's show the bones, man. So I thought it was interesting.
Gotcha.
They weren't even like normal bones. It looked more like kind of I think it's like, that you're kind of like your nervous system, but it looked like his main arm was like a white vein, and then it just had like weird little white vein bones sticking off in both directions. I'm like, even as a kid, I'm like, I don't think that's how like a the bones in your arm actually look, but it was just weird.
Yeah, that does sound weird.
I mean, maybe it's because he was like a vampire and they're trying to show that maybe he has more like bat arms type thing, but I'm just like, huh.
Oh, could be. Like the little like bat wing bones coming off.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was something like that, but I don't know. He was in his human form, so it doesn't totally make sense. But yeah, I remember that movie. Haven't watched it in a long time though. Yeah.
I always remember that one fondly. I think it's another one that probably wouldn't hold up to scrutiny right now, but yeah,
sure.
Nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
But that's all I have, John. Do you have any that I missed?
I only had one. So when you brought this up, I was kind of like, I'm like, there's Halloween movies I watch every year, but I'm like I was trying to think of ones that I was like nostalgic about from when I was a kid. And I don't know. There didn't seem to be as many as I remembered. I mean, Hocus Pocus for sure. Then I guess the other one that came to like right off the top of my head was The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Which that one's weird though, because it seems like it's a lot more lately with like decorations. It seems like they've been pulling Nightmare Before Christmas into Halloween time, even though for me, I mean, the movie takes place like, well, the night of Halloween, and then a majority of the movie is the build up to Christmas. So thought it was like a dark Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't know. It seems like I'm being told it's more of a Halloween movie. So I'm like, I got to put that one on the list, because usually how I do it is I think it's like the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie take place, at the last 5 to 10 minutes of Halloween. Because, then at the end, in the scene, they do their whole like Halloween Town festival where he's like kind of like a pumpkin headed scarecrow thing, and he lights himself on fire. And afterwards, everyone's like, yay, it's over. We did it. So I was like, okay, it's the end of Halloween. You should watch this movie timed up on Halloween night. So, you start it at like 11:50. And then when that moment happens, Halloween's over. And that's kind of like the build into your, Thanksgiving, Christmas time of year. So that's always how I've kind of thought to do it. But, sometimes I don't feel like staying up that late on Halloween. So.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. I guess like I remember really, really loving Nightmare Before Christmas when I was a kid. Like I remember Dad would always like, there was that one part in the scene where like the guy with the axe in his head goes, Bunny. And Dad would always say that. And I don't know, that always kind of made me laugh. But I guess I've just gotten like burned out on it over the years. Like, I don't know. It kind of falls flat for me now. I think like the purpose that Nightmare Before Christmas serves is that Halloween people who don't like Christmas can decorate at Christmas with Nightmare Before Christmas stuff and have it be like Halloween. And Christmas people who don't like Halloween can decorate with Nightmare Before Christmas stuff on Halloween. Like it just kind of bridges the gap, I guess, between like those subsets of people.
Yeah. No, it works, but yeah, no, for me, the film still holds up. I mean, I like the music and everything, and I think it's a pretty well executed movie. And I mean, I enjoy it, but I guess I get all your points. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you think it's more of a Halloween movie, or do you think it's more of a Christmas movie?
I personally feel like it's both, I guess. Like the feel is definitely darker. Like you said, like it does take place like mostly around Christmas time. So I guess in that way it's a Christmas movie, but I guess the other thing is there are already so many Christmas movies and so few Halloween movies that maybe we should just stick it in the Halloween camp, like just so that we have another Halloween movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of Halloween movies. I mean, yeah, there's way more Christmas movies. It seems like, I mean, each year it seems like you get a new Christmas movie, but you don't necessarily get a new Halloween movie. However, I don't know. So this is random, a little bit more off topic, but I watched this movie. You're into like Trick or Treat and those anthologies. I watched this movie Bad Candy recently. That's kind of like it's a high budget indie film, but it stars like he's more like he's like a radio host, Crypt Keeper, telling these stories over the radio, but it's Corey Taylor from Slipknot as the radio host in it. So I ended up watching it because of him, and it's just like, I think it's 3 or 4 stories of Halloween, might be more. But yeah, it was actually good. I mean, I ended up, because it was the same to rent it as it was to buy it on Amazon Prime, so I can probably just let you watch it. And I think you'd dig it. I mean, there's some kind of conventions about it. I mean, there's a clown running around. He's kind of like the Sam figure from Halloween, and more so the avenging spirit of Halloween. And there's just some good stories, and it's dark. It's probably, some of it's a little bit darker than Trick or Treat, but yeah, it was a good new thing this year that I watched that I was into. So
yeah,
Bad
I'd be
Candy.
into it. Nice.
And it just goes like, back to the kind of nostalgic theme that you had for this. I mean, there's movies I watch every year. The first episode, I mean, I watch Halloween every year, Hocus Pocus. I guess when you were like nostalgic Halloween movies, I was thinking, I'm like, that's like stuff from when you're a kid, right? And I'm like, I just couldn't think of a lot of movies that were rolling over. But, you brought up some good ones that I hadn't thought of in a while. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Indeed. All right. Is this the end of this one?
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
Nope. Just moving closer to Halloween, getting excited about it. I feel like that's what I say at the end of every one of these episodes, but it's the truth.
It's true. 4 days left now. We're both amping it up, the Halloween factor. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Thank you everybody for listening to the Dukes of Horror Halloween special. I'm Screw Loose.
I'm HH Duke.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.